Welcome to the Wedco podcast, where wedding wisdom meets street smarts.
We're dishing out all the tips, tricks, and wedding goss to take your wedding to the next level.
Time to ditch the formalities and get this party started. Hello and welcome to the Wedco podcast. I'm Toga, and today I have Steven from the Wedding Marketing Co. on the couch with me.
Hello.
Thanks so much for coming up, mate.
That's okay.
And we just got off the back of an event where Steven was presenting to, like 40 people on the Gold Coast talking about meta ads and your strategies and landing pages and all the lovely things.
Yep.
So, thanks so much for coming out, mate. It was like everyone took so much away for it. So
that's all good. It was, you have a good community here. Everyone was very, helpful, and everyone just wanted to have a chat at the end of the day, which is what a community should be. So I think it's important to build that and have events like this so you can have those conversations.
Plus, I saw everyone fangirling over you, so I know you're hyping.
Yeah, felt good.
Usually where we start is kind of just a little bit of a backstory, like about your own photo video studio, but then also delving into the Wedding Marketing Co. and where it started and where it's moving.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been running my own business for 7 years now. Yep. I launched my business in 2018 in March. I didn't get into this in the event, but I launched my business with a business partner. We kind of were doing the odd job, photo, video, cafes, businesses at the beginning. And then we very quickly got into weddings just by accident. We actually put up like an ad through Service Seeker.
I remember that.
Marketplace. And then we found ourselves at a wedding. And first wedding, we had to go to Canberra, and it was a very intense experience because I didn't have my license at the time. So we had to catch the train down to Melbourne. I was 17, he was 15, so we couldn't hire like a hotel or anything like that. So we're so young, we're so naive. We ended up shooting the wedding, and then we're like, where are we going to stay?
That's awesome.
We had all the footage and we're like clutching it, and we just kind of walked around and hung out all night until the next day. The wedding was great. Like, it went great. We shot it perfectly. The couple was stoked. We ended up giving them like 2 highlight films, all the ceremony, all the speeches. We got home and just edited everything like 2-3 days or something.
How old was this couple?
Maybe 30.
Yeah, okay. So you got a 17 and a 15-year-old.
Yeah, it was a bit interesting. But they weren't, they expected that. Like, we had a call with them before. Like, we actually went down there and everything. And I believe we said, long time ago, so I can't exactly remember what we said, but I'm pretty certain that we said, this is our first wedding, we haven't done one before. They were just like, yeah, we don't really care, just come along. It was video, so they had a photographer. If you hadn't done any weddings and you're a photographer, it's a bit more pressure. Obviously, video is very important. I love having video a part of our packages and things, but I think a photographer, if they fuck up,
it's a big deal.
Yeah. But luckily nothing went wrong. We did have to work on our feet and things like that. But we realized that was a pretty decent way of getting income as well. So we started to take on more weddings, a few referrals. We actually had an ad on Gumtree. So we're just getting some...
Had Gumtree ads at the start too.
Yeah. It's absolutely shifted from that now, hasn't it? Like this, every time I tell that to someone who's kind of new, they're like, what the hell?
Gumtree, what?
Yeah, literally. I actually got a really cool wedding. Hayden, who was shooting the BTS for the event, he actually got a Vanuatu wedding, a destination, couple from Melbourne, and they flew us both out for photo and video in Vanuatu through Gumtree.
Okay, so you're saying that's where you're focusing all your effort now, Gumtree ads?
No, not at all, no. So, it was very, very, very cheap, but we actually got that destination wedding within like probably 18 months of beginning weddings. Noah didn't come with me. That was Hayden's job. But 2019, I was taking on quite a bit more weddings, trying to shift more towards that while filling in the income with odd photo video jobs elsewhere. But I haven't really had a real job. I've worked at Macca's and I worked at Flip Out. So I've pretty much been business minded, I guess, for my whole adult life. So I had to kind of fend for myself and just take what I could. So I pretty soon shifted into weddings because it was a feasible way of making a really good income, and it was a very enjoyable job as well. Like you would know, it's fun to be able to be there on people's best day of their life, having a really good time, and you can give them something that they can really remember with a very special sentiment towards like your service. So completely shifted to weddings in 2019. And then obviously COVID happened, and then came out of COVID, big influx of weddings. Shot 65. I'm going to backtrack a touch. Noah didn't want to continue weddings, so I bought him out of the business as COVID opened up. And then I went balls to the wall. I was just doing weddings. I haven't done anything else since COVID opened.
Yep.
So,
And how's the shift? Like when you do take it on all yourself, like all the responsibilities on you, and what you reap is, what you sow, you can kind of put so much more into it as well when you're like, this is me, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's much easier to be able to just, not have to get feedback or, just speak how you want to speak. And you can make people fall in love with your brand and your actual personality as well. 'Cause it's a little bit harder as a team and you have to do things a bit more strategically as a team. But you can position yourself in that way as well. But I think it's easier to brand yourself. But now I do have a team and I'm branding as a team. But yeah, it's easier to shift that brand mindset to just like you are the guy for sure. But yeah, shortly after COVID opened, obviously it was a big influx for the whole wedding industry. I took everything on myself, didn't have any business partner, had no other kind of systems to work on, and I had to shoot and edit 65 photo video weddings in COVID. And as you would have heard before, my backlog ended up being 6 months and 25 video edits at its peak. So I was editing photo and video, and there was 2 instances where I was coming up to a really hard deadline, and I had no choice but to edit consistently for 72 hours for both edits, because they were like, one of them they had, it was happening. Like one of them, they had all their friends and family traveling to their house for this viewing day. And the other one, it was just way too overdue. A lot of that was miscommunication from me. I was very poor at communicating because I was just so stressed. I was so overwhelmed. I didn't want to have to talk to these people because I didn't want them to blow up at me. Yeah. So,
I felt the same. Yeah, like when you get busy and you're like, cool, this is amazing, got so many weddings, and then you kind of fall behind a little bit and you're like, all you can do is put your head in the sand when you know that's the exact wrong thing to do. But like, it's just, even though you're logical, can't take over. And it's tough. And it kind of does get very overwhelming very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. But I told myself that I never want to be in that position. I'm never going to stay out that long editing again because it's not healthy. Like so many, like putting that much pressure on yourself and putting that much pressure on other people to wait that long and to not have communication. Like it's not a good way to live. It's not a good way to run a business. So I told myself I'm never going to do that again. And shortly after, I hired my first editor, who's still a part of my team now, and he's been editing everything since. And I trained him up over a long period of knowing exactly how I want things, and he's come back to me, and we've shifted the style together, and he takes the reins.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how good is that? Like how much you have to realize and like, what do I actually like, and what do I usually do in a wedding film, and like actually trying to break that down in your head so that you can communicate that to someone else, and like this is what I would like you to do as well.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. But when it's just you in the business, you have none of that documented. And without that, you cannot hire someone. You need everything broken down into very small increments about why you do things in a certain way, how you do it, the buttons you have to press. Not so much with editing because you can have a shift, but say someone's doing your social media and they need a framework to follow. And figuring out how to build those frameworks and figuring out how to just describe a task to someone is such a difficult thing to learn. But that's business. Like it's understanding how to delegate, how to tell people what to do, how to give them the right information so they know which direction to go. Yeah. I'd say it's a really hard lesson to learn.
Definitely. And then that's the whole, like you didn't get into photography, wedding photography to do that. But now this is like a whole different thing I've got to learn. And pretty much everything in your whole business is hinged off learning these skills.
Yeah, exactly. But, we got into the photo video realm because we liked being creative. We didn't realize that came with the attachment of running a business. So a lot of people just neglect that and, can do quite well if they make some good connections. But if you want to be successful, if you want to be the best, you've got to run a business. And that's what a lot of people struggle with, which I'm sure we'll kind of get into today as well. But running a business is so important, and the business fundamentals are the same in every industry. We just have to shift them in a certain aspect to make people get the right information. Yeah.
And that's so often like where you're, especially when you first start out, you're like, you see these photographers and you already think you're pretty good. And then you see these photographers that you don't really think are that good, but they're the top of the game and they're getting all the work. And it's like, you can't realize at that stage, like, oh, this is all business. And it's like these people, all the super creatives that you look up to and they're really quirky. and do amazing artistic things, but they're not booking jobs either. And it takes you a while, a bit of growth to kind of understand and just kind of put that together in your brain as well.
Yeah, when I understood that, it was quite a shock to me because we've had the top photographers come to us in Wedding Marketing Co., which I will give a bit more backstory behind that in a second. But they've come to us not understanding that they needed to supplement their work with those systems and the business-minded things. And it's just, I guess, reassuring to the people who aren't as talented or haven't worked as hard with the actual imagery and things like that, because you can just supplement everything else with the systems and you're going to succeed. You know, as long as you're working on your craft, you're bettering everything, but you should be bettering your systems and you should be bettering the business as a whole as well as your craft. Because a lot of people just focus on bettering themselves in the wedding day without the rest.
Yeah, how do I take prettier photos? How do I, yeah, exactly, in building that side of things.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll give a bit more context to my backstory because I think it's important. Yeah, as soon as I hired MJ, it gave me the time to build these systems. It gave me, you know, I took kind of the reins off. When I hired him, it was about March. So we quickly came into winter as well. So I had about 4 or 5 months of just time to consider how I wanted to shift the business. Was I going to close it down or was I going to reshift it to not have to be this stressed ever again in my life? So I worked on the systems, how to actually take on more work without wanting to just run away and run off to a cabin.
Yeah, exactly. Like I could take 60, but that doesn't scare me.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, I really focused on actually honing down on those systems to what do I need to tell my editor or what people do I need to hire to allow me to bring on that influx? And that's when we started to develop Wedding Marketing Co. and get kind of an understanding that this is business, this is what is important, and this is how you get more work. And
when you talk about Wedding Marketing Co., like it's straight away, like, cause like I said, when I first came across you, it was like an ad and it was like a perfectly timed ad where I'm like, I need to do something. I've done so many Facebook ads, markets, you know, courses and everything like that. And I'm like, I need to actually take action and spend some money and do this. And then your ad popped up. So, but what you're saying is that it's not, the Wedding Marketing Co. isn't just meta ads.
Yeah. So originally we started developing all the processes with my business because my business partner in Wedding Marketing Co. is Nithu and Bryce. And Nithu runs a marketing agency. So we decided to, you know, he was running his own marketing agency and we decided to just play around with my business, see what would happen. So we developed this process through testing, from that about November, October mark to just test a bunch of times, and just kind of have fun with the money and just play around, see what works, see if this is feasible and to see if we can get good results. So we were implementing what he already had built into weddings. We started to implement that. And then shortly after we started to, you know, service that as an actual business, as a marketing agency, which is when we brought you on and started to bring in more clients, bring in more leads for people like yourself with what had already been proven. And now we're diving more into like understanding that people in the industry, much like I needed at the start of 2022, people need more systems rather than more eyeballs because everybody has leads sitting there that need attention and they're not getting attended to. And people are just leaving money on the table because they just don't simply know what to say or they don't know how to interact or communicate with the customer effectively. So there's so many different realms that we're trying to give advice and information to, but it's mainly just about building better understanding for people in the creative industry to have better systems, have better business minds, because we are in such a creative aspect.
Yeah. And it can be scary. Like I remember, you know, the first 10 years of my wedding kind of photography life, I never had to really, like I boosted a post here and there, or like you might advertise in a wedding magazine and you're like, cool, that's $2,000, but it was once a year or something like that. And it is like, honestly, it's only probably been the last year where I've actually started to run my business like a business. And it is so scary at the start because when you're thinking about like, okay, cool, I'm going to outlay like say 5 to 10% on advertising when I've never done that before. It feels like such a big number. But then also once you start doing that, you start growing so exponentially as well. And you're like, why didn't I do this 10 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. Granted, the landscape has changed a lot in those 10 years anyway. So it probably would, 10 years ago is a long time for the new, I guess, space. But if you're in that position where you do feel like either you're ready to make the jump and learn along the way, or you feel comfortable with the systems you have, jumping as soon as you can is the best way to do it if you are struggling significantly. Yeah.
So, do you want to delve a little bit into kind of what your services within the Wedding Marketing Co. are? And also, I'd love to highlight, like I had this issue, and I've spoken to a few people that like, I started running ads and I didn't book any, I didn't get any leads. And like just kind of really showing that like putting money towards Meta isn't the answer if you don't have these other things in place as well.
Yeah, for sure. What we do at Wedding Marketing Co. is we run ads for people, but now we are very selective with who we work with because we have a very strict system that we know works. So we are really selective with the people we bring on. So we need to make sure it is the right fit rather than putting kind of our system into something that doesn't work or someone who's not interested in following our guidelines that we've kind of laid out. So we're very specific with the people we work on, and we're refining it to be a more personalized experience. We are working together to be your marketing people, essentially. So
it's almost like, hey, like if you're going to work with us, know that we're going to ask you to do this, and you almost have to like be agreeing to like, well, this works, so you got to take our guidance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've learnt over the I guess the history of the business that we do have to be more selective with that, because there are certain like formulas that work. So that's what we know. That's what we've spent tens of thousands of dollars of testing. So why would we reinvent the wheel every time we bring on a new client? Just because they think that they have something that they wanted to do differently, which may be fine, but we know that this thing over here works.
Yeah, like this is why you're paying us the money, is because of this.
Exactly. So we're being super selective with that. But the other aspect of what we do is, as I said briefly before, we're trying to bring up the knowledge of everyone to understand a bit more about systems, about business, or even how to run their own ads. So we're building up a community around that as well to just bring up the information, because when I was building my business, I couldn't find that information out there. Yeah.
And like, even when you get your first CRM and you're like, it's so overwhelming, like you're going from like never knowing anything about CRMs to all of a sudden that, and then like automations are involved in that. And it constantly feels like there is so much to do. And it's like, unless you kind of have guidance, like, okay, cool, this week we're going to work on this. Now we're going to work on this. It's just, again, like putting your head in the sand because there is so much.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's just business. Like there's always a new lesson to learn, but it's always something that is beneficial. You just have to know what to focus on, because there's always so much stuff out there and some of it's just not worthwhile. So you have to pick and choose and really like spend time. Okay, setting out my CRM this week makes sense because that's what's going to push me for the next 5 years. I haven't touched my CRM since I built it. Probably it was January 2022 is when I built my CRM properly and focused on it. And I haven't really had to touch it, made small changes, but spending the week that I spent at the start I'm not going to have to do that again. You just make small additions.
And did you hire someone to help you along that way, or did you kind of just delve deep into it and like learn what you need to learn?
No, I learned everything myself. Yeah, I was going to hire someone, but I didn't end up doing that just because I was a bit scared to spend the money. Yeah. But now I understand the system, so I can implement it however I need as well. Yeah. So
awesome. And like, so how do you see the landscape has changed within like social media? Obviously, is where most people are getting their bookings. It's either referrals, social media. How that has changed over from 2018, 2019 through till now. How do you find that like landscape's changed?
Yeah, for sure. Instagram is a lot more difficult to get traction on. It still can work. Like I know people that just book out purely with Instagram, but I don't think it's just the traction on Instagram. They have a very tight-knit community and they're very good with the vendor communication and things like that. So Instagram works, but you need a lot of effort to put everything in there. And I don't think that, you can't post something now that you used to be able to post back in maybe 2018 or even earlier. It go as viral and then that set you up and set your account up. You've got to be very strategic with all of that. And it's more community based. It's what everyone else is talking about and attaching those photos, like vendors posting photos and things like that. That's important, and that's like a backbone to a business if you're going the organic route rather than just posting pretty photos along the way. So the whole organic aspect is very tricky, and you have to be consistent. You have to be very consistent. And you have to be posting things people want to see. You can't just a lot of people, like, they come to us and all they're doing is just posting photos that they want to post. But you have to look at everything, even with marketing, you have to shift everything to what a client would actually want to see. What moments are special to them? We can't think, okay, like, this is very well composed. The rule of thirds is perfect here. Like, that doesn't matter. People do not care. So we need to shift our whole mindset to only interact, like, publicly with things that people actually want to see. And that's how we can get more bookings. So posting emotional images, posting first look with a dad or something like that.
And I feel like, yeah, because if you do go straight to like the ads route, if you don't want to spend so much time on Instagram, because like it could be a 40-hour a week thing. Like realistically, if you wanted to just like all I'm doing is focusing on Instagram and that's how I'm going to get all of it like organically, you could probably spend the whole week working on that to be able to get to that point. But I feel like even when you like talk about the ad side of things, half of it is kind of you want your curated feed, because when people get the ad, they're going to kind of go to your landing page, but they're also going to check out that Instagram, and everything kind of has to support everything as well. So it needs to be a lot more well-rounded. But even I go back to like, okay, cool. So can I hire a marketing agency, and they just look after everything? But then to do that, it's probably cheaper for me to just run Facebook ads to get those leads than doing like the 40-hour a week thing with the marketing. So it's so hard to know which direction to go.
Yeah, for sure. We don't do any like curation on people's feeds and stuff because that's so personalized, and no one would really want to let that go anyway. But it is all important. But a lot of people don't directly go through to the Instagram profile. You do get some, so you may as well have it curated. But I don't really curate my feed as much as I should. I spend more time on just the data-driven things. I've got a virtual assistant, and he just posts my images for me. I would like to curate my feed a little bit more, but I just don't put the time into it. So all of my work just comes through the ads that I do have live, just because I can see the data. I can put money into the position where it's working or take money off of where it's not working. I can see exactly what's working and what's not. So that's where I kind of funnel my attention, just because I can know what direction to go. But having a curated feed is obviously desirable, but you can simplify that as well by putting things into place, putting systems into place by, doing a week's or 2 weeks worth of feed curation in one sitting, writing the captions, having pre-planned templates of, okay, for this instance, I can describe 3 sentences, a paragraph about the wedding, then I can describe how the wedding feels, or then I attach the vendors in this way. You can build those systems to speed up those things. So it's not always you have to dump heaps of time into these things. Everything that we kind of want to bring attention to the industry is just that you can systemize everything. You just have to work out how to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And then, okay, so why do your ads work? And like, you know what I mean? Like why there's like, honestly, you go on Instagram, there'll be, especially as soon as you've clicked on a Facebook ad or a Meta ad click, you're going to get advertised to everyone. Like, why do you think I mean, we may as well go into my story a tiny bit. I pretty much gone from like, I think it was June-ish, I signed up with you guys. The same thing, like I was like one wedding for 2025 at that stage, and I was definitely freaking out. And I was like, man, I need to book 2 weddings to make this worth it out of deposits. And if that happens, I'm just going to keep going until that doesn't happen anymore. And like for me, I think it was like 9 that I booked that first month. And so obviously like it was nuts. Like the difference was absolutely insane, because I had gone, even like talking on this podcast, from no one's getting married anymore, like poor me, it's just different. And like that was 100% my mindset. And then to come through, and I think it was like 41 leads in the first month, and I was like, people are still getting married. Like it was just, it's just what used to work doesn't work anymore. And you have to kind of shift your brain. And as soon as that started happening, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do this forever until it doesn't work. Like, why would I not now put this money aside every single month? And this is my advertising budget, and that's going to propel me so much more forward. And that means like I can hire a marketing manager, in the Philippines. We've got the editors and all that kind of stuff. And it just means that you have this money to make, it's almost like doubles down your business, where it just gets so much easier because you've got the money coming in as well.
Yeah, exactly. Look, the whole why ads work is a very it's a very complicated question. But I guess what we do, we focus on a few things. There's 2 really important things for an ad. There's many, but I'll focus on 2. Building trust is super important. So for instance, when we first signed you up, we immediately said we need a photo of you and a couple,
Yep.
and we need you to actually be in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to put a face to the name, right?
Yep.
We need to put some rapport behind you. You need to say, hi, I'm a real person. This is what I do. I do photo, video in the Gold Coast area, etc.
Yep.
So you're building that trust straight away. You're like showing up instead of just posting a random photo that has no relevance
Pretty
to
photo.
you. Yeah, exactly. I wish that would work, right? But people care about people, and they actually want to understand a little bit more about you as a person, or you as a business, or why your company works in this specific way. So that's super important. So we really lean heavily on getting actual like photos of yourself as a client at a wedding. So building that rapport straight away that you are doing exactly what you say you are. And another huge thing that we lean on is obviously your reviews. So getting the reviews from real people and just stacking as many as you can. So you can just put a screenshot of, 50 reviews, 70 reviews, or whatever it may be, because those are real case studies right there that people can look at and think, oh, they really like this experience. The team was super comfortable, easygoing, and they guided me through the whole wedding. So building rapport is absolutely crucial, because when people think about Meta or think about Facebook or Instagram ads, it feels a bit scammy sometimes, I think, but maybe that's because they either haven't looked too deep into the space or because they've seen shit ads. But it does. All we need to do is just make sure people know what's going on. Everything's super clear, and everything is built with rapport and trust. And that's why we can get such a big connection at the initial stage of when someone sees you.
Because even like you look at like wedding florists, anything there are so many beautiful photos out there, and like it gets to the point where you can't even remember whose feed you were looking at. Yesterday it's like, oh, I remember there was this wedding here, and I saw it and it was beautiful, and the couple was amazing, and then like trying to find that photographer, that florist, that whatever, again, it's so hard. But if you actually kind of break up that feed and actually see the person either taking the photos or interacting with the bride or talking to the camera, even though that is so scary, it makes the world. It's like the only differentiator at the moment, because there are so many good vendors in our field.
Yeah, and so many more vendors have come into the industry as well. It's easier now than ever to kind of build a big brand, because you have a beautiful phone at your fingertips that can take photos, and then you can spend a bit of money, a lot less money than you had to previously, to be able to get a good camera, and you can start your business out of nothing. So the barrier of entry is lower, but that means you have to work a lot harder to get leads, which just means you have to put your best foot forward and just provide people with the right information to give them what they need to make sure that they feel like they understood and that they feel like you are the right person for the wedding. Yeah.
I think we need to take it back to as well, like all this, we're kind of talking to vendors at the moment. But like a big, mind shift that I had to make as well is like, by doing this stuff, you are serving your client. Like they're not going to get angry that you gave them all the information.
Absolutely not. So something that we've kind of discovered since starting our Wedding Marketing Co business is, if you don't give people this information, it's a very egotistical thing to do, because you think that your photos and your videos are good enough, and they might be, but that also makes in your mind that discounts everybody else that's also talented. So you think that your photos or videos might be better than everybody else that client is going to come back to you and remember exactly who you are, without giving them any information about how you're actually going to show up on the day, or how you're going to present your services in a different way. We don't want to be egotistical in business. We can't do that, because we have to make sure that the client gets everything first. We have to aid them through the whole process. It is just unfortunate, but it means that we have to describe the whole experience for a customer. We don't want them to have to guess about anything in the journey. So breaking down those layers for us internally, and realizing that by showing up to people and giving them the right information that they might need about planning their wedding. For instance, if someone comes into my lead funnel, I'd like to give them just as much information as possible. I like to contact them as much as I can to just have those conversations and guide them through the process, so they know what's going on and they know what to expect. Because without that, they are lost in this journey, and they might not have any idea what to do, how to plan their wedding, and how to they might not even know what a photographer or a videographer actually does.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what do I even get from the end of a day? Yeah. And so like when you have your ads, do they just funnel through to like just your website, or like how does that work?
For sure. So one other important thing about an ad is obviously we've discussed that you need to build trust and rapport, but you need to focus on what makes you different as well. So you need to build an offer that makes you different from everybody else, because at the end of the day, our service is how we show up on the day. It's not just what we actually do and how we deliver the photos and videos. It's the experience that we guide the couples through on the day. Because being a photographer or a videographer, we're there more than any other vendor. So if they have a shit experience with us, we're kind of ruining their wedding day. So it's important to lean on what makes you different. And for me, I'm able to deliver everything in 4 weeks. So that is my offer. For someone else, it might be they might just be more personal with the couple. They might guide them through the whole wedding planning experience from very start to finish. Finding out what makes you different is difficult, but it's important. You got to stand out. So you have to put in the work. You have to think, okay, you have to break the whole business down and think, what do I do differently, or what can I lean on that makes me different to everybody else out there? And if you come up with no answers, think again.
Yeah. Delve deeper.
Yeah, exactly. It is tough. I had to work out what I could do. It took me probably a couple of weeks. I broke things down, figured out what I could do differently, how I could spin things. But it's important because there's so many vendors out there and you have to stand out. So that's the ad. You need to get their attention and build their trust. And then from that point, you want to funnel them through to a landing page. Now, the whole experience of every single part of the journey with your ad, a landing page, all your emails, and all of the info that you send them, I like to think of this as a river, and every single next point of contact is that kind of offset of that river. So you need to have you need to set the expectation for that next point in the journey. So for instance, when someone clicks your ad and they go to a landing page, you need to have the expectations set so the client doesn't have to think about anything and they can have everything they need in front of them to just funnel through your landing page and know exactly who you are as a business, what you offer, how long you're there, how you normally show up, and what you actually do. So they don't have to start searching for information, go through your whole website, get distracted, try to go through 10 different pages to not get the information they're looking for. So a landing page is a one-page website, essentially. It doesn't have to be attached to anything else, but it just gives people that information about you, about your business, and how you're actually going to be able to capture their wedding day. And you're setting that expectation to capture that lead at the bottom or in the middle of the page. So we want to guide people through each stage of those experiences to set that expectation of what they have to do next. Yeah.
Because in the past we've been taught, like, on the website, you got to have the about us, and you got to have like the 4 galleries, and you got to have, all these different touch points on your website. But I know what you mean, like people kind of get to your website and they'll be like, cool, pretty gallery. And then like the phone rings or it's dinner time or something like that. And then like kind of coming back to that point is like, will it happen? Maybe it won't.
Exactly. All of that is very important on your actual website, but a landing page is just a simplified version of your website to give someone a 5-minute outtake of what it would be like to work with you. So then they can inquire, go back to your website, look at more information, and they will also get sent emails from you to dive a bit deeper. You should have all of that stuff in depth on your website, but don't need that on your landing page because people don't need to read your whole life story on your about page. They can later on the in-depth section on your website, but landing page, they don't care.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, they've just found you. They really liked your ad. They're kind of moving across, and now we've found out all the info we need in order to kind of send a lead to you because we're interested.
Yeah, exactly. And on that landing page, you want to be talking about things you can do for them. You don't want to be talking too much about yourself. It's like, how am I going to show up to your wedding day? So for me and my company, we show up and it's very relaxed. It's very easygoing. So I don't want a couple stressing out on the day because that just affects our mood and it makes our job easier. So I like to just take everything at a really easy going approach and just be super relaxed because that makes our life easier for shooting content and it makes their day more enjoyable. So we're not going to be pushy with timelines or we're not going to be in their face or anything like that. So I document that and I explain that on my website. So this is how we're going to show up on the landing page. Sorry.
That's good. Like the couple can see themselves in that. They're like, oh, that's who we are. You've got the clients that like, they really want these really editorial and, artsy shot, But then like the people, and they're probably not going to inquire, but the people come across you and they're like, oh no, we just want a really nice, beautiful day. We don't want to be stressed. And they're going to see like the branding that you're talking about, like, oh, this is our guy.
Exactly. And you're going to lose leads you're going to lose leads from those editorial people. And that's fine. Because if you aren't in that realm and people come and they book with you, they pay you the money and you deliver the product, they're going to be fucking pissed. They're going to be upset because you didn't deliver what you said that you're going to deliver, or they didn't have the right expectations set in their mind about what you do. So it is good to funnel out everyone that isn't in the frame of how you want to actually capture the weddings. So it's important to qualify that lead with the landing page beforehand. Otherwise, you're just going to be, having unhappy people, or you're doing weddings where you just don't want to be there. It's just not in your ideal frame. You just want to be speaking to the weddings that you actually want to be at. So just speak to those exact people, and those will be the weddings that you get.
And do you find that like so many people are so interested in like demographics within Meta? Like I got to break it down to like these people who just got engaged and they live here and they're interested in this and this and this. Do you feel like having this on your landing page almost does that job? So you can kind of go wider, and then that's going to kind of bring through just the people you want.
Correct. And Meta's AI is so good now that that's all you need to do. So all of that information on your landing page, that means that everybody clicks through to your landing page. It reads the data for everyone that's interested and follows through the steps, reads more, and kind of spends more time on that landing page. So it pushes it out more towards those people. So if you get the right people, the landing page funnels them through, and the landing page like pushes out to other people that you might not be super ideal to, and Meta learns from that, and it makes your ad better in that aspect.
Awesome. So even though you're saying kind of send this out to everyone, it's like, yeah, cool, but we're just going to send it to these people. Like it's going to keep learning over that time.
No, so Meta will send it out to everyone. Everyone will click, and then it only figures out exactly who's interested, and it keeps sending out to more of those people. So it is the AI systems in Meta is super powerful. You just need to know exactly what to either prompt or the right ad creative to put through, or what to say on the landing page, and then everything else gets filled in with the blanks.
Cool. Because if you're not branding correctly to yourself, or you're kind of going too broad, then all of a sudden it's learning the wrong thing almost.
You're speaking to no one if you're going too broad.
Yeah. Okay.
So you don't want to be just shotgunning saying, I'm going to take on any wedding, just give me money, please. Like you need to be nailing it down to exactly the people that you want to work with, because Meta is very specific with who interacts with that page. So instead of just wasting time, you may as well just figure out the best wedding that you have done and just try to get more of that. Because Meta will learn with that. It'll take the data and then it'll only put it towards the people who are in that frame of how you've presented the landing page.
That's amazing. I didn't know, like I knew AI was doing good things right now, but I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. So that's why, it's not so deeply based on how the ad's set up. It's about what the actual photo or video is. The landing page is very, very important. And then after that, once you capture the lead, obviously following up. It's exactly, you need to know what to do in what order for all of those things, like the ad, the landing page. So those are the difficult things, and that's where a lot of people get tripped up on. It's not setting up the ad that's difficult. The difficult part about Meta and running the ads is where to kind of cut ties and refresh everything. That's the most difficult part. It's like, okay, we've tested this for a week and a half. Now, do we have to shift? Understanding the data, because there's a lot of conflicting data sometimes to say. We've got a lot of click through to the landing page, but not many people actually inquiring. So I mean, it's the landing page issue. So it's understanding that data that's the most difficult thing.
All right, so I've got the leads.
Yeah.
And I got heaps of them. Do I have to call people now, or what do I do?
Please, please. So we need to be communicating with more people. So someone's coming to you because they're interested in your services. They want to understand a bit more about you, about your business, about how you guys run. They spent the time out of their day to look at your ad. They're interested in what you actually do. And now they're just trying to get some more information. So every single person should be contacting the leads that come through their system. Like, please. Reach out to, sending them one email is not enough, because other people have figured this out, just like myself, and we're going to be swiping up the leads, unfortunately, because we're just giving people what they need.
Exactly, what they want, what they need, for sure.
And we're getting like our foot in front of the door up first. So I always call every single lead. If someone specifically states in the lead, I do not want you to call me, fine, that's not an issue. but I call every lead, and two things will happen. They'll pick up and they'll say that they're busy, or they'll pick up and they'll say, yep, let's have 5 minutes to chat. And if they don't pick up, then I just leave a voicemail. So that's not an issue at all. But every time someone does say that they're busy, I haven't once had anyone say, do not contact me again.
Don't call me.
Yeah, literally. But we are scared of that because, we might have experienced some spam callers, for instance, people trying to just get money out of us, whether it is a scam or people are spamming businesses or just cold calling us. These aren't cold leads. They're not like, we're not a random person to them. They've given us their information. They've willingly put their phone number there, and they've willingly put their email there. So that means that they are interested. They want to learn more about you. And look, if someone really doesn't want you to contact them, they'll just put a fake phone number. It's really...
They just won't pick up.
Or they won't pick up. Yeah, it's not an issue at all. But they've come to us because they want that information. So it's our duty as a business owner to come with our best version of ourselves and give them that information that they're actually looking for.
Yeah. Because you feel like you're bugging people and stuff like that. But like how you broke it down to like, this isn't a cold call. Like if you it's almost to the point where like, if you aren't calling them or giving them this attention that they want, you're almost doing them a disservice by not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're planning such a massive part of their life. They're planning a wedding. So we know what to do. We know how to plan weddings. We know the things they should consider. So the least we can do is show the interested party the information that they need to consider to actually go through and plan their day. Whether it's give them information about what they actually should consider with photo and video, like what questions they should ask, or how they actually want to live the day, or how they want to remember everything with photo video. We just need to have more conversations with people. So everything's just pushed to social media now. Not many people are actually having these in-depth conversations.
Yeah. I think I was telling you earlier when we were at the event, how like I'd literally just listened to your podcast. It was really good. I think I'd listened to it half an hour before having this Zoom chat. And it was even, just like chatting to them, and I was just like asking them questions about their day to understand what they actually needed, rather than here's my top package, this is what I want, but then not even like kind of paying attention to anything about themselves. And then like even speaking to this couple, and I was like, look, it's not sounding like you want this top collection. The middle one really sounds like more what you guys need. And just like you could see straight away, like they just felt so heard as soon as I had actually asked them about their day. And it's it's like in the past I'd just kind of think that was like really salesy, and I'd kind of just get on the phone call and be like, this is what I do, and I do this and I do this and I do this, and like, cool, I'll chat to you soon, and then that would be it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like everything I kind of listened to off your own podcast as well, it just resonated, and then putting it into action. And it's just crazy how much of a shift in that Zoom chat makes. We're like, oh, I'm actually helping these people. And even if they don't book me, I'm still helping these people.
Absolutely. And isn't it funny that now that you've learnt that, that's less salesy than what you were doing before?
Yeah, 100%, like way less. Yeah,
like,
for sure.
It's so less invasive to have these conversations, because all sales is, it's knowing what questions to ask and listening to their response and knowing what to follow up with. That's all we're trying to do. And without that, we're being so much more pushy. If we're talking to people, if you get them on the phone and you kind of don't know what to say, you're going to be pushy, being like, I do this, you need to be doing this. Like, and it's not subtle. So knowing how to run a sales call or what to ask, it's so much more of a flow and a dance rather than just being a pushy salesman, because sales is just listening. And now that you know that, like, it is a more relaxed experience.
Yeah, so much more. And like when they thanked me for like having a Zoom call with them, because they probably inquired with 10 different photographers as well, and they're like, thank you so much for offering this service, because like no one else had. And here I am thinking that like I'm being so salesy trying to get on a Zoom call with them, and they're like, oh, thank you. Yeah. You're like, oh, how good is that?
Yeah, and if we shift the perspective, I always like to do this. I like to think about what the client actually experiences. Why would I want to give someone like almost $10,000 if I haven't spoken to them? Like, why would I do that? So without, like, if you don't implement sales calls into your systems, like, think about this from the client. Why would they want to give you money? Like, how can you think that they would trust you without having those conversations? Or if you're not asking the right questions or getting them to talk about the day or how they want to experience the day, why are they going to give you money when you're not really being like a good person to them.
Exactly. Yeah, you just like send off a few emails and then like, yeah, cool, sign the dotted line and send me some cash.
Exactly. And that's so much more salesy than actual sales by having those conversations, because not many other people do this. So just by simply having that conversation that you had and walking them through this, and this goes through with follow-ups as well. Every time, so I follow up with people every 3, 7, 10, and 14 days after they inquire, just with either a new piece of information that they might find useful, or a different story about a wedding, or different reviews and testimonials, or just something, asking them questions, like giving them new information, giving them new things to consider. And I always get people coming back. If they aren't interested, they say, thank you so much for following up. We found someone else that falls into our category, and that's fine. But they always, every single time they say, thank you for providing this information. It's been so helpful, even though we didn't book with you. And a lot of people just think that it's so scary to follow up with these people. It's so, we're going to be annoying, but that just means that you think your work is better than the conversations that you're going to have with that person. And that's just unfair to the client, to the person. You think your work is able to build that trust without actually showing up as a normal person.
And it's like, it's crazy, but you almost feel just as happy when they get back to you to say no. Because you're like, thank you. Like, thank you for just giving me clarity of like, cool, that's awesome. Like, if you still need help, let me know. I can still give you help. But rather than just like, oh, here's 15 open leads and no one got back to me. So
exactly. Yeah. And you have a definite yes, definite no. But a really good thing that I always like to do when someone gets back to me with no, it's always a very nice conversation. They just say, no, I'm not interested. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the information. I always like to ask them why they went with someone else. So that gives me context to what I'm doing wrong or what is going on, whether it's a price thing, I didn't give enough value, or they just simply like someone else's work better. So that is a really good way to gauge what is going on in the market, what you're not doing, what you are doing, or if you're just simply not giving enough value to the table. So I always ask, if someone says no, just simply ask, like, what is it that made you go a different route?
do you find most people would get back to you? Like, say that took place over in an email, like would most people kind of get back to you?
I'd say about 70%.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like even that they've taken the time for someone they're not going to book with to give them the time. Like, and it might just be price. It might just be, something else where you can't help that,
Exactly.
but it's still good to know anyway.
Yeah. And I just always simply say, thank you so much. This means the best to me. It means the most so I can better improve my services for other customers. They're always they're happy to help. Yeah. So
then like, okay, so we're going like, the follow-ups and everything like that. Where would you go? So like, do you want to talk about the whole process or like why? Okay. I haven't advertised with, meta ads before. I need to start generating some more work. What do you think I should have in place in my business before I was to contact like an ads agency or someone, similar to the Wedding Marketing Co?
for sure. So you need to make sure that your website, you need to make sure you have enough trust built before this. So have enough reviews under your belt. If you don't have enough reviews under your belt, contact all of like your best weddings. If you haven't messed any up that couples are unhappy with, don't contact the weddings that would give you a bad review, obviously, because you don't want to poke that bear if you've done something wrong. But, reviews are so important to start with. So try to build up your reviews, or any weddings that you have coming up. Just ask them for a review. I always ask for a review 2 days after the wedding, after they've received the sneak peeks, because everything's so fresh. It's so fresh in their mind, so they still have the hype, the experience, and it really helps to bring those reviews in.
I think even wedding vendors, like I've spoken to other vendors and everyone's so happy, like especially, and you only ask the vendors you work with a lot and that are happy with your service, but they're like, oh yeah, I've done weddings, before with this florist and she does the most beautiful flowers and even stuff like that. And I think even as a couple, they would appreciate that another florist loves your work as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so powerful to build up that community. So trust is super important. And also obviously having the right work. You need to make sure that you're confident in your work is super important before you start advertising. If you're brand new, it could work if you really, really do some pretty dodgy marketing tactics, I guess. But you'd have to play a lot on psychology rather than a lot on your work. And we don't want to have to dive too deep into that, because that's when you set the wrong expectations. It could work, but you'd be throwing money at something when you could throw money at how to shoot better or something. So you want to make sure your work's good enough. But another really good thing that you need to make sure down pat is you need to make sure all the follow-ups that we just discussed is down pat. You need to be contacting every lead, call every lead, and have those conversations with people and feel comfortable, or you need to be willing to learn on the spot with the leads that you will get, because that's super important. Because you need to have that back and forth and have those conversations with people to start to understand a bit more about the sales calls experience. So you can definitely implement the email follow-ups before you do meta ads. So follow up with people with different pieces of information across the journey of 2 weeks of them looking at different vendors. So give them your pricing when they first inquire, and then shortly after send them some free information, and then shortly after send them some different testimonials and things like that, or send them a wedding that they might really enjoy, or just ask them questions about their wedding planning process. Those are 5 emails that you could put into your system over a 2-week time span.
Instead of just like, hey, just checking in.
Yeah.
Hey, just checking in.
Exactly. And that's when it gets like salesy, right? So with that, you should also have follow-up texts attached to that system, that funnel. And then once you have all of that ready to go, you feel confident with everything, that's when you can really start to look at ads and look to really showcase your work to everyone. But once the leads come in, that's a whole nother story. So once you actually have the leads, now you really got to focus on communicating effectively, which we've spoken about. But what do you actually say to these people when they get on the phone? So as I said, I call my leads as soon as they come in. If I miss them, like I would have received a couple of leads while I've been here, so I'll call them like maybe this afternoon, or I might just do it when I get home tomorrow. So give them a little bit if I've missed them by a couple of hours to process the information. And then, if they inquired 3-4 days ago, I'll just give them a call one afternoon of a week. It's not an issue. People don't mind. But if you aren't going to call them, organize a on-phone catch-up with your leads. So you want to get them on the phone just to suss out the vibe. You want to make sure they're the right client. So a 5-10 minute chat to have the conversation of how do you actually want to experience your wedding day? What vibe are you actually looking at? How do you want to enjoy the day? How do you want to remember it through our service? Have that quick conversation just to make sure that they are in exactly the right vibe. And on that call is where you want to book in that Zoom call to walk them through a bit more about your service and how you can help them. So both of these stages are very important, but the Zoom call is the most important thing, I'd say, because on this Zoom, you want to walk them through the whole experience. You want them to ask them questions about their wedding, how they want to experience these things, and then how they actually want to remember it with your services. Yeah, and then by that information that you get a pretty good idea of exactly like you had before, what package suits them, or what they might actually nail down, what they need for their day.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like they're almost like telling themselves and like reiterating to themselves what they need. And like every time they're telling you, oh yeah, I'm really looking for like these beautiful photos and videos, like they're almost telling themselves what you offer as you're talking to them, and they're almost like selling themselves on what you do.
And that's 75% of the process. You want them to be convinced. You don't want to have to convince them, right? Because that's when it just doesn't work if someone realizes you're trying to sell them, or that's when you come across as sleazy or salesy. Ideally, you're talking to the right person, and all you need to do is to convince them that you are the right fit by getting them to talk about the things that they want, and you do exactly what they need. So you're getting them to reassure themselves because you are that exact fit anyway. So they're talking and they're like, oh yeah, exactly. Your work is exactly how we want to live our day. They are selling themselves because that you are exactly what they need. So having them talk is super crucial because they are going through the process and selling themselves on that. So I always like to, talk about those things for about 15, 20 minutes because it is important that they sell themselves for sure.
Cool. All right. And then most times, like people you're speaking to, are they kind of convinced at the end of the call? They're like, okay, cool, Steven. Like, yes, we would like to book you in. Or like, how do you feel at the end of a Zoom call?
Not all the time. Sometimes things just don't feel right. So sometimes things don't mesh as well. They might have had a bad day. You might have had a bad day. You're not vibing as well. But that doesn't mean you wouldn't work well together.
I've had those Zooms where you keep talking at the same time and you're like, no, and like it just doesn't work. And you're like, oh, this just was never going to work.
Yeah, exactly. And look, that's fine. Like your work or what you've displayed might be valuable enough where they look past those things, but sometimes it just doesn't work. But sometimes they haven't made an answer on that spot. I always like to ask people if they are ready to go, if everything we've kind of laid out is exactly how they'd like to experience the day, just so I can know where they're up to. Depending on that answer, whether it's yes or no, that doesn't matter. I'm still going to send them a quote regardless. You need to be sending every single person that you speak to on a Zoom a quote, because that gives them all the information they need to then make that decision with their partner. So I just simply say at the end of the call, I'm like, you guys ready to go? It's either yes or no, or if it's a maybe, I'll say, I'm going to check in with you guys, in a week to just see how you guys are going. Please just let me know if you have any questions in the meantime. Just call me, text me, whatever it is. I always just make a joke. I just say my phone's glued to my hand, so I'll be able to see it at any time. It'll make things lighthearted. And then I simply send them a quote 5 minutes after, and then I just follow up with them when I say that I follow up.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. And then they know that expectation every time. And also like taking away like the amount of times I'd be like, hey, would you guys like to have a Zoom? And then they'd email back, yes, we'd love to have a Zoom. Does Monday 6:30 work? Yes. And like just having those things where they're already there and it's not extra work to try and organize something.
Yeah.
Like I said, with the quote, like here's a quote, have a look over it. You don't need to ask me to email you the quote. It's already there. And they can kind of just move at their own pace.
Exactly. You want to cut out all of the guesswork for your clients. Like, why should they have to come back to you with something that they think that might be in the right thing of what is next to do? Cut out everything. Cut out all the fluff so they know exactly what to do next. Because that's just how you are effective with your sales. Like you need to get people to do exactly what you need them to do to go to that next stage. So don't let them have to decide and look through other info packets. Like give them everything they need. Like you don't want them to have to search and come back to you, wait for you to give them a quote, and then you would have lost them by that point. Like give them everything they need, because that's just benefiting them. You're not being salesy by giving them the quote. You're just giving them all the information they need to have a locked in price, a locked in package to then discuss. It's not an issue at all.
And so obviously with me, everything's been working really well. And like, is there what's moving forward for the Wedding Marketing Co. from this point?
Mm-hmm. So obviously we're very selective with our done for you service. We run your ads, we run people's ads, but people have to come to us and fit kind of the avatar. We have very set criteria where people have to be willing to work as a team and implement the system that we know that works into your business. So we're very selective with that. But on a larger scale, we are doing more of a community-based kind of cohort system where we're going to teach these things to people. So they will understand a bit about how to run ads. We're going to teach people how to run these different systems in their business, whether it's how to run your system as your business as a team and what you need to consider with that, or how to communicate with virtual assistants, or how to hire team members. All of those things that are super important for a vital business to actually run. We're going to be implementing that and teaching people these things, because all of that information was missing for my business when I was trying to learn, and I had to figure out the hard way.
Yeah, you have to learn it all yourself. You're like, oh, I need to hire a staff member. Cool. Like, where do I start with that?
How do I do that? Yeah, so that's the goal. We want to bring up the community and build our own little circle.
Okay, awesome. And so are you taking like enrollments, or like how does that work?
Yeah, so we do have a separate brand for this, and it's called Grow Your Wedding Business. It's the same name as our podcast, and we've set all this up now. But yeah, we are taking enrollments through this website too. I can send you the link. Maybe
Yeah, for sure. Well. I can put it in the show notes for everyone if you're happy to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
That's not an issue. Yeah, so we are taking enrollments for that. The initial stage, we are going to launch it for free, just because we haven't taught things to people before. We've just run the businesses for years. So everything's a learning stage. Like starting our own podcast is a learning stage. Being a business coach, I guess, is a learning phase that we are going to go through, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to give information out to people. So the initial stage, the initial cohort that we're going to go through, the way that we're going to do it is we're going to do a push and pull sort of situation. We're going to walk through each piece of information each week and have weekly calls, and then you'll have accountability with that, so you can check in and do those things in the next stage, rather than just throwing heaps of information at you and making you sort it out. So
I love that because it just make it more bite-sized pieces where you can actually, okay, if this is all I get done this week, this is what I need to get done.
yeah, exactly. So we've got 2 tiers for this, and we're teaching everything about ads, and then we're teaching everything about business. So they're separate, but you can do, it's like growth, there's ads, and then there's the top, which is both. So our ads course is like cohort is 3 months, and the growth is 6 months. So it's 6-month interval of learning everything about sales, how to follow up, all of the implemental pieces of information that we've kind of built our business on.
Amazing. I'll be signing up.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's really cool, man. Like, yeah, I was saying I've listened to a fair few. Actually, I've listened to all of your episodes so far, and I feel like everything, I just get like that little nugget. You're like, cool, I'm just going to go do that now. And now I'm just going to go do that. And just like those little bits and using different information in your sales calls or in your language and how big of a difference that does make. And then it kind of just shifts you as a person as well, where like you said, like now I'm comfortable doing this. And you're kind of just shifting all those mindsets.
Yeah.
So I think if people are, especially right now, there's more kind of, I guess, people are thriving to kind of grow a really good wedding business again right now. So I feel like people are actually willing to put in the work to grow for the next 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously you're one of our clients, but it doesn't take much implementation, does it? It's only small shifts to make a drastic change.
For sure. Yeah. And it's like I got to the point now where like I've been able to up the prices to now cover the costs of the advertising and your services. So it's like now you've kind of got this service for free and it's just booking weddings.
Yeah.
And so it's so good. So compared to like trying to do it by yourself and then all of a sudden you're still struggling and you're doing a million different things on Pinterest and TikTok and everywhere, just trying to kind of get any lead you can.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And look, all of those realms work. It's just where do you want to focus your time? Because we only have so much and we can't handle everything. So if you're going to go organic, pick one avenue, pick Instagram, go. If you're going to go ads, go. Just pick one realm and just do it well. And if you are going to expand, hire people. We can't handle all this stuff on our own.
Awesome. Steven, thank you so much for coming on, mate.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. And thanks so much for coming up for the event as well.
Of course.
It's been amazing. So I'll put links in the show notes to like your course and everything like that as well. But yeah, really appreciate it, mate.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wedco podcast. We're dropping a fresh episode every week featuring industry professionals dishing out the wedding wisdom you need to turn those dreams into reality. Make sure you are following us on social media, you have those notifications turned on so we can help plan your wedding day. Your dream wedding day just got a whole lot easier. Thanks for listening.